Good to have you along for this Sunday, July 13th, 2025. Welcome into Fox 5's On the Hill Live this Sunday morning. I'm Tom Fitzgerald. We're going to begin on the headlines. A feud brewing inside the White House this weekend over the Justice Department's efforts to close the case on sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, saying there is, quote, no client list. Sources tell Fox that Attorney General Penn Bondi and the FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino got into a heated argument over the way it's been handled. President Trump posting on social media and defending Bondi, saying, quote, we're on one team, MAGA and I don't like what's happening. Meanwhile, in Texas, the deadly flash flood response continues. This morning, at least 129 people are dead. More than 170 are still missing this morning. Dozens of active duty and former Navy SEALs are assisting with the search and rescue efforts. On Friday, President Trump and the First Lady traveled to Texas. After months of saying that the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, could be eliminated, Trump had high praise for FEMA.
FEMA has deployed multiple emergency response units, and FEMA has been really headed by some very good people. We have some good people running FEMA. It's about time, right? We get some good ones. They failed us in North Carolina.
Emergencies and disasters are always locally executed. The state manages them, and then the federal government comes in and supports that.
Well, the New York Times this morning is reporting that new documents show that FEMA did not answer thousands of calls from flood survivors. And this week, the president announced that he will impose a 30% tariff on the European Union and Mexico by August 1st. He also announced a fresh round of tariffs on Canada of 35%, also beginning on August 1st. Those negotiations, though, with Canada are still ongoing. Now, for more on the news of the week, we're pleased to welcome back here Wendy Benjaminson. She is a senior editor at Bloomberg. I wanted to start with the news off the top that we talked about in Texas. Very often, presidents and administrations are judged on how they handle situations like this. This administration appears very aware of that right now, and some of these questions about the phone calls have been raised in exchange for the questions about what happened to FEMA. Is the administration right now all in on Texas? Do they realize, or how aware are they of what the country is looking at as far as their response?
Well, I think they are showing their awareness, Tom, by sort of reversing track on decimating FEMA and NOAA, the Ocean, Atmospheric, the Weather Agency. So they are backtracking a little bit on the amount of cuts they are going to do to FEMA. They are realizing that FEMA, while maybe slow and bureaucratic, is there to fill in the gaps where local officials often can't. And as a 20-year resident of Texas, I will tell you that surviving those extreme weather events, the local officials and the state officials will do what they can, but they really need the feds to help.
There is fraud, waste, and abuse in government, in all governments throughout time. But when the Trump administration came in with this broad brush, did things like FEMA and NOAA wind up getting brushed as well, too? And maybe, those were areas of the government that directly affected people in need. Absolutely.
The coordination manager for the National Weather Service in Central Texas, whose job it is to make sure that local officials are sending out warnings, that they have everything they need, that they are ready to stand by for a disaster like that, he got doged, he got laid off in January, that individual. So that vacancy was there. Now, was his job fraudulent, wasteful, or abusive? I don't know. But his job was to make sure the locals knew what was happening and had the resources. And that didn't happen this time.
Seems like a pretty important job.
It does.
The president announced a new round of tariffs against the European Union and Canada as well. When these were first rolled out in the early days of the administration, Peter Navarro, one of the economic advisors, said that they were going to make 90 deals in 90 days. Clearly, that didn't happen.
Right.
But we have not seen the stark economic hurt that a lot of people warned about from these tariffs. So where does the truth lie here? Are the tariffs effective in balancing the scales on trade, or is this something that eventually is going to lead to some kind of economic recession in this country?
Well, remember, most of the tariffs aren't in place yet because Trump keeps moving the goal line back. There was first July 9th, it was first April, then July 9th, now it's August 1st. And, you know, the tariffs that were announced yesterday morning on the EU and Mexico of 30%, those are due to go in August 1st if negotiations don't continue. And there are tremendous outs in it. For example, in the Mexico tariffs, things under the USMCA, which is about 80% of the goods that would be tariffed from Mexico, won't happen. So it's still anyone's guess.
We got to talk about Jeffrey Epstein,
Yes.
even though the president went on social media the other day and said, stop talking about Jeffrey Epstein. There appears to be unrest in MAGA world right now over this. Why?
Well, because Trump, the president, had promised that he would get into the bottom of this and find the client list. Pam Bondi came on this network and said, I have a client list on my desk. It's shocking. I'm looking at it now. We'll get it out. And then all of a sudden, they wanted attention to shift away from that. So Pam Bondi says there is no client list. I never had it. It's all a conspiracy theory. And people like Dan Bongino, who is now the deputy director of the FBI, but before had been a MAGA World sort of podcaster who promoted these conspiracy theories, feels betrayed. And there are a number of people in that orbit who feel betrayed that this case will never see the light of day.
It seems that one way you could settle some of the questions of whether there was a conspiracy or not would to be release whatever you have.
Exactly.
The president is right in saying that Jeffrey Epstein has been dead for a while right now. There still is an individual in prison over all of this.
Right.
What is the likelihood that they ultimately stand back and make these documents public?
I don't think that's going to happen. I think they are just going to move on, try to move on from this, because, as you said, Jeffrey Epstein is dead, Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison, and the case, I think everyone's hoping, will just go away. Everyone in the administration, I should say.
All right, we shall see. Wendy Benjaminson from Bloomberg, thank you so much for joining us this morning.